My name is Olivia Kerrigan, and I'm 35 years old. If you'd asked me a few months ago to describe my life, I would have said it was solid. Not glamorous, not tragic, just steady in a way I'd worked hard for. I've been married to my husband, Ethan, for 7 years. We met in college, got married young, and for a long time I thought we were the couple other people envied, the ones who figured it out early. We paid our bills on time, argued about stupid things like whose turn it was to take out the trash, and talked vaguely about starting a family next year, like next year was a country we'd definitely visit eventually. I was wrong about a lot of that. The first crack didn't look like a crack. It looked like Ethan being weirdly happy. About 3 weeks ago, he came home from work with this particular kind of energy. Not suspicious, just sparked. He was on his phone more, smiling at messages that he'd swipe away when I walked into the room. "What's up?" I asked one night as he leaned against the kitchen counter, grinning at his screen. He locked his phone like it had reflexes. "Just work stuff," he said, and changed the subject. Ethan works in marketing at a mid-sized pharmaceutical company. Product launches, campaigns, endless meetings. Him being on his phone a lot wasn't unusual. Him being secretive about it was. I noticed it in other places too, how he'd zone out during dinner, smirk at a notification, and turn the screen slightly away from me. I told myself not to be paranoid. We'd been together long enough that I trusted him more than my own insecurities. His company's annual holiday party was coming up. He'd brought me every year. The venue changed, the theme changed, but the script was always the same. Free drinks, awkward small talk, some VP giving a too-long speech about synergy while everyone pretended to care. This year was supposed to be no different, or so I thought. One Tuesday evening, I was chopping vegetables for dinner when Ethan cleared his throat behind me. "Hey," he said. Casual, too casual. I glanced over my shoulder. "Yeah? So, about the office party on Friday." He shifted his weight, fingers tapping against the counter. "I think maybe you should skip it this year." The knife paused mid-slice. "What? Why?" He hesitated. That split second of silence should have been my first red flag. "It's just, Sabrina's going to be there," he said, "and I think it might be awkward." Sabrina. I hadn't heard that name out loud in years. Sabrina Lowe, his ex-girlfriend from his early 20s. They dated for 2 years before he and I ever met. According to Ethan, it ended amicably when she moved across the country for work. She'd always been a shadow story in our relationship, mentioned in passing, filed under old life, no longer relevant. "I thought she moved to Seattle," I said. "She did. She's back now, VP of sales." He exhaled like this was a minor inconvenience, like a parking ticket. "We work together sometimes. It's fine. We're fine. I just don't want things to get weird if you're there. You know how exes can be." I set the knife down slowly. "Ethan, we've been married 7 years. Why would I be weird about someone you dated in your 20s? He flashed a nervous smile. "You wouldn't, but she might. She's been kind of nostalgic lately. Asking about my life, commenting on old photos on LinkedIn. I don't want any drama. I'd rather just go, have a drink with the team, and come home early." Something in his tone scraped against my nerves. It wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't. "If she's making you uncomfortable, report it to HR, I said. "That's what they're there for." "It's not that serious," he answered quickly. "I just think it's easier if you're not there. Just this once. Please, Liv." He only calls me Liv when he wants something. I looked at him, at the man I'd built a life with, and told myself I was being dramatic. People have exes. People have office politics. Not everything is a betrayal. "Fine," I said, "just this once." I agreed because I trusted him, because in 7 years of marriage, he'd never given me a reason not to. What Ethan didn't know was that 2 months earlier, I'd been quietly headhunted for a regional director position at his company. A recruiter reached out to me about an operations role. I'd gone through 3 rounds of interviews with corporate, all remote, none involving the local office where Ethan worked. I'd signed an offer the week before. Starting Monday, I would be the new regional director of operations for his company. The CEO, Daniel Park, wanted to introduce me to the regional staff at the holiday party. "Let's make it a surprise," Daniel had said over Zoom, smiling. "It'll be a great moment. We'll announce you at the executive table." I hadn't told Ethan yet because I wanted to surprise him. I pictured his face lighting up when he realized we'd finally be working in the same city, in the same building. I imagined him proud. The irony makes my chest hurt now. Friday night, Ethan spent almost 2 hours getting ready. That wasn't unusual for him. He liked to look sharp, but there was an extra layer of effort this time. He wore a slim-cut navy suit I'd never seen him wear to regular work events. When he stepped out of the bedroom, he smelled like the cologne he reserved for special occasions. "How do I look?" he asked, smoothing his tie. "Good," I said. And he did. He looked good enough that my stomach twisted. He kissed me on the forehead, not the mouth. "Don't wait up," he joked. "Kidding. I'll be home early." The door closed behind him. The apartment felt too quiet. I waited an hour, then got ready myself. I chose a simple black dress and a blazer. Understated, professional. Not the kind of outfit you wear as someone's date, but the kind you wear when your name is going on an org chart. At 8:15, the car Daniel sent pulled up in front of our building. The driver opened the door with a polite, "Ms. Kerrigan?" The hotel ballroom was already buzzing by the time I walked in. Warm light, clinking glasses, the distant thump of a DJ playing safe, corporate-approved music. Laughter floated over small clusters of people in cocktail attire. Daniel spotted me almost immediately and waved me over to the executive table near the front. "Olivia, glad you could make it," he said, standing to greet me. "Everyone, this is Olivia Kerrigan, our new Regional Director of Operations. She starts Monday." I shook hands, smiled, exchanged the usual pleasantries. Across the table sat a woman with sharp cheekbones, a sleek bob, and an expression that said she knew her worth and then some. "Olivia, this is Sabrina Lowe, our VP of Sales," Daniel said. Of course she was. Sabrina extended a hand. Her grip was firm. "Welcome aboard," she said. "You're going to love it here." I smiled back, the kind of polite, neutral smile you practice in mirrors before big presentations. "I'm sure I will." She didn't recognize my last name. Ethan and I kept separate names for professional reasons. In this moment, it felt like a cruel joke. The universe had been waiting to spring. As we talked about nothing, targets, territories, next quarter's projections, I scanned the room for Ethan. I spotted him near the bar, laughing with a group of coworkers. He hadn't seen me yet. Sabrina's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and smiled. Slowly. The kind of smile you don't wear for a group chat about budgets. She typed a quick response, then set the phone down, still smirking. "Hot lead?" Daniel teased. "You could say that," she replied lightly. He chuckled. "Your partner here tonight?" "Divorced, actually," she said. 2 years now, but I'm working on something promising." My skin prickled. "Anyone I know?" Daniel asked, taking a sip of his drink. Sabrina lowered her voice, but not enough. "Let's just say I'm rekindling an old flame," she said. "We dated years ago, before he got married. His wife's some tech girl who works from home, barely pays attention to him. He's been very receptive." Every word landed like a pin in my spine. Daniel laughed, oblivious. "Well, keep it discreet. We don't need HR knocking." She waved a hand. "Please, it's harmless, for now." I stared at her, at the gleam in her eyes. Slowly, I followed her line of sight across the room. To Ethan. He was leaning against the bar, his posture relaxed, phone in hand. It buzzed. He looked at the screen, and that same secret smile curved his mouth. I didn't remember standing up, but suddenly I was on my feet. "Excuse me," I said, my voice sounding too calm to belong to my body. I walked toward the bar. The crowd seemed to part without me asking. My heels sounded too loud on the carpet, even over the music. Ethan saw me when I was about 10 feet away. His face didn't just go pale, it went blank, like someone had yanked the power cord out of his brain. "Olivia?" he breathed. Behind me, I heard Sabrina's footsteps falter as she realized where I was heading. "Daniel, you've met Ethan, right?" I said as I reached the bar, my tone still polite, almost bright. "My husband. The one I wasn't supposed to bring tonight." A few of his coworkers turned. The music volume seemed to drop, or maybe that was just my pulse roaring in my ears. Sabrina caught up, stopping a few feet away. "Ethan," she said weakly. I looked between them, then back at her. "You were just telling Daniel about an old flame you've been rekindling," I said. "The married one, with the tech wife who works from home and doesn't pay attention. That wouldn't happen to be my husband, would it?" The color drained from Ethan's face. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Sabrina's eyes darted between us, confusion turning into horror as puzzle pieces clicked into place. "You're—" "Olivia Kerrigan," I said, "your new regional director of operations." Silence rippled outward from us like a shockwave. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses hovered midair. I pulled my phone from my clutch and opened my text thread with Ethan. I scrolled to the message where he'd asked me, begged me, not to come tonight. You told me to stay home so it wouldn't be awkward with your ex, I said quietly. Turns out awkward doesn't begin to cover it. I looked at Ethan, really looked at him, the man who'd sworn I was his home. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm going to leave. You're going to figure out how to explain to HR why your wife and your VP were just having this conversation at the bar in front of half the company. My voice didn't shake. That almost scared me more than if it had. I turned to Sabrina. And for what it's worth, I added, I don't need to make this ugly. The truth will handle that all by itself. Then I walked out of the ballroom without looking back. Behind me, I heard glass shatter. I didn't know if it was a dropped drink or something else cracking open. All I knew was that the life I thought I had just ended under warm chandelier light and polite laughter. And I wasn't sure yet what would replace it. I don't remember the walk from the ballroom doors to the curb. I remember the cold air hitting my face like a slap. I remember the valet asking if I needed a cab and my mouth saying, no thank you, while my hands shook around my phone like it weighed 10 pounds. I remember one clear thought cutting through the noise in my head. Don't scream. Document. The car Daniel sent had already left, and I was grateful. I didn't want to sit in the back of some branded town car with a logo on the door while my life fell apart. I called a rideshare instead, rattling off my sister's address. Rough night? The driver asked when I got in. Something like that, I said. I didn't cry on the ride over. I stared out the window at holiday lights blurring past, feeling like I'd stepped sideways out of my own life and into someone else's. My sister Claire opened the door in leggings and an oversized sweater, hair piled on her head in a messy knot. Her eyes went straight to my face. What happened? She asked. If I try to say it right now, I'll start screaming. My voice came out flat. Can I just stay here tonight? She didn't ask anything else. She just stepped aside and said, of course, come in. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and baby shampoo. Claire's 2 kids were already asleep. Her husband, Mark, appeared in the hallway, confusion turning to concern as he took in my dress, my expression, the way I was holding myself like I might crack. Do I need to punch someone? He asked. Get in line, I muttered. We ended up at the kitchen table with tea I wasn't going to drink. My hands were steady enough now to hold my phone without dropping it. Okay, Claire said gently. You don't have to give me everything, just tell me. Do I need to call the police, or a doctor, or a lawyer? I let out a breath that was almost a laugh. A lawyer, I said. Definitely a lawyer. I told them the short version. Ethan's ex, the party, the comments about the tech wife who didn't pay attention, the way Sabrina had looked at him like he was a prize she'd just reclaimed. Claire's jaw tightened. Mark swore under his breath. He did this at his own company party? Mark said. With executives there? Yeah, I said dully, in front of my new boss. There was a long silence. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the hall, a kid turned over in their sleep and mumbled. Okay, Claire said finally, switching into the practical, older sister voice she'd been using on me since we were kids. What's step 1? Step 1, I said, is receipts. I pulled up the customer service number for our phone carrier. Are you sure you want to do this tonight? Claire asked quietly. If I wait until morning, I'll talk myself out of it, I said. I'll tell myself I'm overreacting. I'm not doing that this time. The call connected. A cheerful automated voice asked about my account. I punched numbers, gave my passcode, waded through hold music that sounded like it was mocking me. Finally, a real person came on the line. Thank you for calling. This is Melissa. How can I help you tonight? Hi, Melissa, I said, my tone crisp, businesslike. I need detailed text message records for a line on my account for the past 2 months. She asked for verification. I answered on autopilot. May I ask why you need the records? She said. You may, I replied. My husband has been lying to me, and I want to see exactly how. Claire winced. Mark's eyes flicked to the floor. There was a pause on the line. I'm sorry to hear that, Melissa said, her voice softening. I can process that request for you. It may take 3 to 5 business days to generate the report. That's fine, I said. Please send the records to the email on file. I'll need all messages sent and received from his number for the last 60 days. Understood. I'll expedite it as much as I can. Thank you, I said. You've been very helpful. When I hung up, Claire squeezed my hand. You know this could still hurt to see, she said, even if it confirms what you already know. It'll hurt either way, I said. I'd rather be hurt with evidence. We made up the guest room. Claire offered to sleep with me in case I didn't want to be alone. I told her I'd be okay. That was a lie, but it was one of the smaller ones in my life right now. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying the party in my mind, the way Sabrina had smirked. The private look on Ethan's face when his phone lit up. The split second when he'd seen me and every molecule of blood had drained from his body. At some point, exhaustion dragged me under. When I woke up, my phone was vibrating on the nightstand. It was morning light, pale and unforgiving. My throat felt raw, like I'd been screaming in my sleep. The screen was full of notifications. 23 missed calls from Ethan, 47 texts, a few from Daniel and HR, which I ignored for the moment, and one new email from the phone carrier, flagged as important. Apparently, our premium plan had its perks. I opened it with my heart pounding in my ears. Attached, please find the requested records for line ending in... I scrolled straight to the PDF. Columns, timestamps, numbers, and mercifully, a translation function that reconstructed text content where possible based on backup and cloud syncing. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I took a deep breath and started reading. The first few messages looked harmless. Sabrina asking how he'd been. Ethan saying he was good, busy, married life, you know. Little nostalgic nods to old jokes, shared memories. Then, slowly, the tone shifted. Ethan, sometimes I miss when things were simpler, you know? Sabrina, when you mean simpler, you mean when you were with me, right? Ethan, maybe I do. I felt my jaw clench. Claire slipped into the room at some point and sat beside me without speaking. Mark hovered in the doorway, then disappeared, then reappeared with coffee. They became background noise. I kept scrolling. There were messages about me. Ethan, she's always working. Even when she's home, she's in her head somewhere else. Sabrina, sounds lonely. Ethan, it is. She used to be fun. Now she just stares at her laptop or plays those stupid games all weekend. The stupid games he was talking about were the weekend gaming sessions I'd taken up after he told me he needed more alone time to decompress from work. I'd given him space. He'd used it to text his ex. Sabrina, maybe she doesn't appreciate what she has. Ethan, she doesn't. She's become so boring. No spontaneity. She's gained a little weight, wears the same clothes all the time. I feel like a roommate, not a husband. Gained a little weight. I looked down at my body like it belonged to someone else. The extra softness at my waist that hadn't been there at 25. The kind of changes that happen to a person who lives and works and gets older. Sabrina, you always said you wanted excitement. Remember that weekend in Miami? Ethan, hard to forget. You were hard to forget. I scrolled further. Plans. Sabrina, we should catch up properly. Maybe dinner? Just as old friends. Ethan, that would be nice. She's out a lot in the evenings. Work events. A lie. If I worked late, I told him. If I had plans, I invited him. Sabrina, or we could skip dinner and go straight to dessert. There's this great hotel downtown. Ethan, I don't know. Sabrina, come on, you deserve to feel wanted again. Ethan, she'd never have to know. Sabrina, exactly. There were also messages about money. Ethan, she makes good money but doesn't like to spend it. Always talking about saving for the future. Sabrina, experiences are part of the future. What's the point if you never live a little? Ethan, try telling her that. Every time I suggest a trip, she says we're close to a down payment for a bigger place. A bigger place I'd been methodically saving for us, for the family he claimed to want. Sabrina, I'd take you places, show you excitement. Ethan, that sounds amazing. The messages grew more explicit. Flirtation turned to graphic plans. They hadn't slept together yet, not according to the timeline of texts, but they'd scheduled it. Next weekend. Sabrina, room is booked. I'll tell them it's a work conference if anyone asks. Ethan, I'll tell Liv I have a late team meeting and might crash at Dad's if it goes late. He'd planned the lie so neatly, slotted it into our life like an appointment. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear hit the screen and smudged the text slightly. Liv, Claire whispered, you can stop. You've seen enough. I haven't, I said. My voice sounded detached even to me. I need the full picture. What does that change? She asked. He betrayed you whether it was one text or 100. It changes how cleanly I can cut him out, I said. It changes how much he gets to argue later that it was just emotional or just talking. I forwarded the entire file to my personal secure email. Then I added a new contact. Attorney, Hart and Levy. The family law firm I'd Googled at 3 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. I attached the PDF and typed, preliminary documentation. Please confirm receipt. I'd like to move forward with a consultation as soon as possible. Within an hour, I had a reply. We're sorry you're going through this. We'll call you this afternoon to discuss next steps. I locked my phone and finally set it down. So? Mark asked from the doorway. Is it as bad as you thought? Worse, I said, because now I can see they didn't just trip and fall into this. They scheduled it like a dental appointment. Claire reached for my hand again. What are you going to do? Call a lawyer, I repeated. Then I'm going to call HR, in that order. The rest of Saturday crawled. Ethan's texts came in waves. We need to talk. I'm so sorry, Liv. Please pick up. It wasn't what it looked like. Nothing happened. We were just talking. Please, you know me. That last one made me laugh out loud. Bitter, sharp. By Sunday afternoon, he apparently realized I wasn't going to respond by phone. So he showed up. I was in the kitchen with Claire when the doorbell rang. The sound vibrated through my chest. Stay here, she said immediately. I heard the door open, heard her voice harden in a way I'd never heard with me. Ethan, she said, you need to leave. I just want to talk to my wife, he said. His voice carried down the hall, frayed and desperate. Please, Claire. She doesn't want to see you, Claire replied. She said so. She doesn't mean that, he insisted. She's upset. We just need to talk, the two of us. Please. I stepped into the hallway, far enough back that he couldn't see me, close enough that I could hear every word. You don't get to decide what she means, Claire said. You had years to talk. You used them to text someone else. That's not fair, he snapped. You don't know the whole story. Then go tell it to your lawyer, Mark said, appearing behind Claire. His voice was calm, but his posture wasn't. You're not coming in this house. There was a pause. I pictured Ethan on the porch, hair mussed, suit jacket wrinkled from being thrown over a chair, eyes bloodshot from too little sleep and too much panic. Olivia, he called, raising his voice. Liv, please, just let me explain. Nothing happened. I swear to you, nothing happened. I stepped forward until I could see him through the narrow gap of the doorway. He did look awful. Stubble, dark circles, tie hanging loose like he'd pulled it halfway off and forgotten the rest. For a brief, traitorous second, my heart squeezed. This was the man I'd loved for a decade. The man I'd pictured standing next to me when we signed for a house or held our first child. Then I remembered his messages about my boring habits, about my body, about how he deserved excitement, and the sympathy burned away. I saw the texts, Ethan, I said. My voice was calm. All of them. His head snapped toward me. Liv. You hadn't slept with her yet, I continued. Congratulations. You only bought the hotel room and planned the lies. Really stellar self-control. It was a mistake, he said quickly. I got caught up in the attention. I've been feeling invisible in our marriage, and she... You felt invisible, I repeated softly. So you made me invisible. He flinched. I was interviewing for jobs here so I could be home more, I said. I was saving for a house so we could have more space, maybe kids someday. I was playing games on weekends because you told me you needed quiet. Every single thing you complained about to Sabrina was something I did for us, or because you asked me to. Tears filled his eyes. I know that now. I was stupid. I got caught up in the fantasy of it. We can fix this, Liv. We can go to counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll quit the job. I'll block her. I'll do anything. I already called a lawyer, I said. And tomorrow, I start as your regional director. His face twisted. You can't just throw away 7 years. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. You did that when you booked the hotel room. He opened his mouth, closed it again. I'm going to ask you once, nicely, I said. Stop coming to where I am. Stop calling. Stop texting. From now on, anything you need to say goes through my attorney. If you keep showing up uninvited, I'll file for a restraining order. Something in my tone must have convinced him I meant it. His shoulders slumped. I love you, he whispered. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I do. I love the person I thought you were, I said. That person doesn't exist. I'm not going to keep pretending he does, just because it's more comfortable for you. For a second, anger flashed in his eyes. Real, hot anger at the fact that his apology wasn't working the way he'd imagined. Then it guttered out, leaving only exhaustion. He looked past me at Claire and Mark. Can I at least send her some things, he asked. Her clothes, her... Email my lawyer, I said. They'll coordinate a time for me to pick up what I want from the house. He swallowed. Okay. He took a step back, then another. Goodbye, Ethan, I said. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then he turned and walked down the driveway. Claire closed the door. Mark locked it. I leaned my forehead against the wood for a moment, feeling my heart hammering against my ribs. That was brutal, Claire said softly. It was necessary, I replied. Because somewhere between the ballroom and that front porch, the version of me who would have accepted less had quietly died. What was left was someone who kept her own receipts. Monday morning felt like stepping onto a stage I never auditioned for. I stood outside the glass doors of the company headquarters, the same doors Ethan walked through 5 days a week, with a brand new employee badge clipped to my blazer and a ball of cold iron sitting in my stomach. I'd imagined this moment so differently. In the version of this life I'd pictured, Ethan would be waiting for me inside, grinning like he was proud. He'd introduce me to his coworkers, joke about how I was finally joining him in the same city, the same building. He'd squeeze my hand as we stood in the elevator together, like we were leveling up in life as a team. Instead, I walked in alone. The receptionist glanced up, bright and professional. "Good morning. You must be—" "Olivia Kerrigan," I said, sliding my ID across the counter. "First day." Her smile flickered, just slightly. People in offices are trained to pretend they don't know gossip, but the look told me enough. Word had already gotten around. She printed a temporary badge, handed me a small welcome packet, and pointed toward HR's floor. "Someone from HR will meet you there," she said gently. HR wasn't supposed to meet new regional directors at the door. They usually waited until after onboarding, after the welcome brunch, after the polished introductions. But nothing about my arrival was normal anymore. The elevator ride felt too quiet, too slow. When the doors opened, a woman in her late 40s, sharp suit, professional smile, approached me immediately. "Ms. Kerrigan, I'm Jenna from HR. Thank you for coming in. Would you step into this conference room with me for a moment?" Her tone was soft, in the same way nurses talk to patients who've just woken up from surgery. Inside the room sat Daniel Park, the CEO. He rose as soon as I entered. "Olivia," he said, voice apologetic. "I'm very sorry about what happened Friday night." You know something has truly exploded when the CEO apologizes personally on day one. Jenna closed the door behind us. "We want to assure you that we're handling this with complete confidentiality and seriousness." Daniel nodded. "What occurred at the party clearly violated several policies. We've already begun a formal internal review." I sat down, folded my hands in my lap, and let them talk. It was strange, almost dissociating, to be the calm one in the room, while two executives looked at me with a mix of concern, sympathy, and corporate panic. Daniel cleared his throat. "Olivia, just so you're aware, Sabrina Lowe has been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation." My expression didn't change. "Good," Jenna added. "Given the circumstances, we're ensuring you won't have any direct contact with her during your onboarding or in your operational duties." "That won't be difficult," I said. "I have no intention of speaking to her, now or ever." They exchanged a quick glance and nodded. "And Ethan?" I asked. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "He came in briefly this morning, then left. HR spoke with him as well." "I assume he won't be handling any projects connected to my department," I said. "Absolutely not," Jenna replied firmly. "Separating workflows and reporting lines is our priority." Separating workflows, separating lives. Same thing, different paperwork. After the meeting, my onboarding should have begun. New hire forms, laptop setup, office tour. Instead, Daniel personally escorted me to the leadership suite. As we walked, employees paused mid-conversation when they saw me. Some whispered. Some straightened their posture like they'd just been caught misbehaving. Corporate gossip moves faster than light. When we reached my new office, I took it in silently. Sleek desk, floor-to-ceiling window, a plant that looked too alive to be real, a view overlooking the city. "This is yours now," Daniel said. "And for what it's worth, you belong here. You earned this. Don't let anything or anyone tarnish that." For a moment, the weight in my chest shifted. Not gone, but rearranged into something steadier. "Thank you," I said quietly. The next few days blurred into a mix of professionalism and emotional triage. Everywhere I walked, hallways, meeting rooms, break rooms, I felt conversations hush around me. Eyes flickered away, just a little too quickly. People didn't know whether to pity me or avoid me, or pretend nothing had happened. I preferred the ones who pretended nothing happened. During a department briefing, I caught sight of an empty seat marked VP of Sales. Sabrina's nameplate was gone. By Wednesday, word spread that she'd been terminated. Not officially because of the affair. Corporations rarely put that in writing. But because during the investigation, finance had uncovered months of falsified expense reports and unauthorized travel claims. Ethan's problem had merely triggered the audit. The real problem was Sabrina's own behavior. Her downfall was inevitable. She'd just chosen the most dramatic accelerator possible. Ethan, for his part, spiraled. On Tuesday alone, he sent me 20 texts. "We need to talk. I'm begging you, Liv. Please don't ruin my career over a mistake. I love you. Please answer me. Please." I blocked him. He emailed instead. I blocked that too. Finally, he reached out through his mother, who called me in tears. Olivia, sweetheart, I'm so ashamed. I don't know what got into him. You were the best thing that ever happened to him. Her voice cracked. I raised him better than this. I closed my eyes, letting the words settle somewhere between comfort and painful irony. It's not your fault, I told her. You didn't choose this. She sobbed harder. Ethan's father emailed afterward. Short, formal, apologetic. A parent trying to clean up a mess that wasn't his. I replied politely. I didn't owe them cruelty, but I also didn't owe their son forgiveness. On Thursday afternoon, I got a call from Jenna in HR. Just wanted to keep you updated, she said. Sabrina's been formally removed from all systems. It is securing her accounts. And we discovered some concerning personal communications between her and your husband on company devices. I waited. Nothing explicit, she clarified, but enough that we're documenting it in the file. Thank you, I said. And Ethan, she continued gently, has voluntarily requested transfer to a different department. He won't cross paths with you. Good. I preferred to be done with him completely. That evening, as I walked to my car in the nearly empty garage, I heard footsteps behind me. My pulse spiked. But it wasn't Sabrina. It was Ethan. He looked worse than before, like sleep had been running from him, and he hadn't had the strength to chase it. His hair was unwashed, his shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were haunted. Liv, he said, stepping closer. I held up a hand. Stop. He stopped. Please, he said, voice cracking, just hear me out. I already did, I said. Every word you wrote to her. He flinched like it was a physical blow. I was stupid, he choked out. I felt invisible, and she knew exactly what to say to make me feel important again. It wasn't real. It was attention, that's all. And lying to me? I asked. Booking a hotel room? Planning an entire affair behind my back? He swallowed hard. I didn't go through with it. You were going to. He didn't deny it. Liv, I'll do anything, he said. Therapy, counseling. I'll quit my job. I'll delete every account. Please. Please don't end this. I stared at him. At the man who once held my heart so gently that I thought he'd never let it bruise. And at the man who'd thrown that same heart onto a hotel room reservation like it was spare change. I want a divorce, I said. And if you keep showing up where I work, I'll file a restraining order. Something broke in his expression then. Something old. Something familiar. Something that once held warmth. Now it held surrender. He nodded slowly. Okay, he whispered. Okay. He stepped back, then further still. When he finally turned to leave, the only sound was his footsteps echoing in the concrete garage. He didn't look back. And I didn't either. 3 months. That's how long it took for the dust to settle. Legally, financially, professionally, emotionally. Not that everything magically healed in that time. It didn't. But the noise softened. The edges stopped bleeding. The constant ache in my chest turned into something dull and manageable. A bruise, not a wound. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Once my lawyer had the text records, the hotel reservation receipts, the timeline, and the HR documentation, the case practically moved itself. Ethan tried, briefly, to push for reconciliation mediation, but my attorney shut that down within minutes. We have more than enough grounds for a fault-based divorce, she'd told me. He has no leverage. So he didn't fight. Not really. Maybe he didn't have the energy left. Or maybe he finally understood that some bridges don't burn. They crumble. We divided assets like we were splitting a refrigerator, marked what belonged to who, scribbled signatures, handed over keys. I kept the house. Ethan kept his car. We split the savings as fairly as we could. Not because I wanted to gift him anything. Because I wanted to be done quickly. I didn't want a long, drawn-out war. I wanted a clean cut. Meanwhile, the company moved on faster than I expected too. Sabrina didn't survive the investigation. Her official termination memo didn't mention her personal entanglements. Corporations rarely do, but it didn't have to. Everyone knew the real reason was the financial misconduct that unraveled once HR started digging. She disappeared from the building overnight. Rumors floated that she fled to the West Coast, that her ex-husband had reopened custody proceedings after learning why she'd been fired, that she was taking time to focus on herself. Corporate translation. Her life had detonated, and she was picking up the shrapnel. Ethan didn't make it out unscathed either. He stayed at the company, but he was transferred out of the marketing leadership track entirely, shunted into an operations-adjacent role under a director who had zero tolerance for drama. The night of the party became office folklore. People stopped whispering when I walked by. Or maybe I just stopped caring. Either way, the story shrank. It became less about me and more about them, two adults who made bad decisions in a public place and paid for it. I focused on my job, and I was good at it, better than Ethan ever gave me credit for. Daniel, the CEO, complimented my Q1 transition plan. The VP of HR asked if I'd consider joining the Culture and Ethics Advisory Board. People sought out my input, looked up to me, respected me, something my marriage had eroded so slowly I didn't even notice. As for my personal life, that evolved quietly. I didn't date at first. The idea of letting anyone into my space felt invasive, like handing a stranger a fragile object with a crack I hadn't learned to trace yet. Instead, I took care of myself. I joined a gym not because Ethan once said I'd gained a little weight, but because I wanted my body to feel like mine again. I cooked meals I liked, spicy ones, messy ones that made the kitchen smell like garlic and basil and warmth. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from because I'd been too busy holding together a marriage with duct tape. I slept without waking up to check if the other side of the bed was empty. And sometimes, yes, I missed him. Not him, the him who existed in real life, but the version of him I'd loved, the one I thought was mine, the one who never existed. That grief was real, but it was clean. 2.5 months after the divorce was finalized, an envelope arrived at my office. Handwritten. No return address. I almost tossed it, but my curiosity won. Inside was a letter from Ethan. The handwriting was familiar, tilted slightly to the left, more careful than he used to write. Olivia, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, but I owe you honesty, something I wasn't good at while we were married. He wrote about feeling inadequate, feeling old, feeling like he was stagnating at work while I was growing, becoming someone he couldn't keep up with. He wrote about Sabrina, how she made him feel admired, desired, valued, how he'd mistaken flattery for love, nostalgia for connection, and attention for intimacy. I chased validation because I didn't know how to ask you for help without feeling like I was failing. I lied to myself before I lied to you. He admitted he'd resented me for things he'd never communicated, that our life felt predictable, that he felt like he was fading into the background next to me. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know you deserve better than what I gave you. I hope you find someone who sees your worth before they lose it. I will regret losing you for the rest of my life. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a file. Not a sentimental one, a legal one, just in case. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt done. Completely, absolutely done. Last Friday, Daniel stopped me after a leadership meeting. Olivia, he said, I wanted to give you a heads up. Your name came up in a conversation about succession planning, VP track. Nothing immediate, but keep doing what you're doing. I nodded, thanked him, and walked back to my office with a calm heart. A year ago, I would have rushed to text Ethan, to share the accomplishment, to imagine him hugging me in the kitchen, telling me he was proud. Now, I told Claire, she screamed. Mark said he always knew I'd outrun everyone. Later that night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, listening to the quiet hum of the city, and I thought briefly about the moment that used to replay in my head on a loop. The ballroom, the chandelier light, Ethan's face draining of color when he saw me. The instant his secrets collided with my truth. I don't feel satisfaction remembering it, just clarity. Because truth isn't revenge. It's a mirror. He shattered ours. And I finally walked away from the shards. I'm not better than okay.